Hey, hey, hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Nobody likes getting ghosted, unless you're the one doing the haunting. Today on rSpace, it's calm revenge. Cold, clean, precise. Cheating wife slipped up by texting her ex from a synced iPad. I ghosted her and left her alone and distraught with divorce papers. My wife of 10 years, Corinne, 37 female, is an effing cheater. The only reason that I, 38 male, found out is because she has the worst grasp of technology that I've ever seen. Despite all my attempts to make her try and understand the way that modern tech works, it has always annoyed me how bad she is with modern mobile operating systems. But this time around, there's a little part of me that's actually thankful for how dog crap she is when it comes to iPhones and iPads, because that's why I know that she's unfaithful. There's never been anything majorly wrong with our marriage. It's always seemed to me like we're two people who love each other deeply. We met when we both went to watch the high school football team in our town play a game, and we hit it off immediately. She works as a teacher at that same high school now, while I work in data science. We were doing okay for ourselves before all of this happened. That's why I'm struggling to figure out why she chose to leave me and go and look for another person to start effing. Before I start rambling, let me just go into exactly how I found out that this woman is cheating on me. We have one daughter who is 8 years old. When she turned 5, we decided to buy an iPad for the family. It was mostly for our daughter, but with strict rules on when she could use it and what she could use it for. It was mostly for educational content, but she was allowed to play certain games like Roblox for a few hours on weekends. Up until now, it is still primarily used by our daughter, but I sometimes use it when I want to watch something on a bigger screen, or if I want to paint digitally, which I do very occasionally. When I bought the iPad, it needed an Apple account, and I chose to sign my wife into it instead of myself because she used it more than I did. So it made sense that sometimes she'd want to access her own stuff from there. I probably pick up that iPad like once or twice in a whole month. I have a laptop and a phone, and those pick up the slack most of the time. Now, I think one thing that my wife doesn't understand is that one of the perks of having the same account signed into your MacBook or your iPhone or your iPad is that you can share the same iMessage account across all three of them. That means you can message the same contacts and continue the same conversation regardless of the one that you choose. In fact, it is obvious that she doesn't understand that. One day, I picked up the iPad because I wanted to watch a recipe for a dish that I wanted to attempt to cook. Instinctively, I opened iMessage because I wanted to send Corinne a message to ask her where a certain ingredient was in the house. But I remembered quickly that it was her account that was signed into the iPad. However, when I opened iMessage, while I didn't immediately see anything that made me choose to snoop, I just felt curious, and I decided to read through her messages with some select people. Yes, I was being nosy, but very clearly, that was something I should have been a long time ago, because had I been, I might have known what was going on with my wife months ago. Instead, I was an oblivious fool the entire time. I saw that she had a conversation with a guy called Desmond. The name jumped out at me because that was the name of the boyfriend she had before me. What I knew of their relationship was that they had been in love. Something had happened, which she had never fully explained to me because it was traumatic, which made me assume he had been abusive, and they had broken up. That was over a year before we met, so he was out of the picture and she seemed to have been over him. I learned the truth of the situation when I read through the messages that she had with the Desmond in her iMessages, because it very quickly became clear that it was the same guy. In those messages, Desmond mentioned that Corinne had broken his heart and she apologized really sincerely to him for that. She had cheated on him back then with someone who he was really close to, and he had been the one to break up. She never told me that, and if she had told me that she had cheated, I don't think I ever would have gotten this far with her. She was the one who had reached out to him in present day, supposedly to apologize properly for her actions. He accepted it, saying that he had moved on. Then from there, she kept in touch with him and she started to flirt with him. It was very subtle at first, like talking about how nice he looked in a certain outfit, to how she missed his lips. She was being very thirsty, and to say that I was pissed off would be an understatement. I was reading it from the start to present, so it was flowing very naturally. But it was also very hard for me to read because I was scared of where things were going to go. He never stopped any of her attempts at flirting. I knew that it was going to have to be over between her and I when I saw her talking about how she remembered his penis vividly and how badly she missed it. He sent a picture of it, and yeah, she reacted very shamelessly. Then they went into sexting and eventually arranged to meet up. That meetup had already happened twice because I could see the two of them reveling over it afterwards each time. I felt like my head was spinning because I went from trying to figure out a recipe to finding that my marriage was not what I thought it was. I'm not sure that you understand how hard it is for your emotions to do such a complete 180. I realized in that moment that the safety of marriage that I thought I had would soon be gone, and I'd have to subject my little girl to a broken home. It feels like crap. I documented everything that I saw in those messages, and that's where I am now. The first message was about 3 months. So all these conversations and activities happened within those 3 months. My cheating wife was a cheater from the start, and I had no idea. If I did know before, I would have been somewhere with another woman, or maybe even single. When she came back home, I had to fight to put on a straight face and act like everything was normal, but I struggled to describe how I felt about her when I saw her. I didn't want to call it hate because that sounds strong, but it was something of the sort. At this point, I'll need to get a divorce lawyer and confront her once everything is set to go, but for now, I think I'll be able to wait for that to happen. I'll see a divorce lawyer tomorrow so that this thing can move on as it needs to. In this whole thing, I just want my daughter to be okay. I'll do my best to raise her when she's with me, but I know that a broken home can never be like one with two happy, loving parents. That ship has sailed to this point, and I know for a fact it was never my fault. I did my best both for my wife and for my daughter. For now, I'll just look at what is ahead of us. Corinne using the family iPad to cheat is peak stupidity. Not only that, but she's just recycling old mistakes because apparently personal growth skipped her entirely. She didn't find herself, she just found the same guy. Update 1. A quick recap of my post is that I discovered that my wife was cheating on me with her ex. I found out because our family iPad was synced to her Apple account, and she had been texting him through iMessage on her phone. I found it by pure luck. Finding the right divorce lawyer is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, and at the end of the day, I had to ask a friend who has had a divorce for who he used. I eventually met up with that lawyer, spoke at length about the situation that I was in, and I paid him for his services. I wanted to make sure that I had divorce papers ready to go for when I confronted Corinne. In an ideal world, I would have waited for the divorce lawyers to be ready and then have confronted her. But to be perfectly honest, I struggled to keep my emotions in check. It's one thing to say that you do everything perfectly because you've read countless stories that are posted here. But when you're the person who has been betrayed and hurt, you'll realize how hard it is to do things in the best possible way. I was going to get her served literally the next day, but when she tried to cozy up to me in the living room, it just triggered me. I became very impatient and my emotions started to bubble up. I waited until our daughter was asleep, and that was when I chose to confront her about her cheating on me. I asked her how Desmond was, and I saw that she nearly jumped in her seat. She looked at me with a very confused expression, and she didn't speak for a long time until she asked me whether I meant the Desmond that she had dated before me. I told her that there wasn't anyone else that I could be talking about. She told me that she didn't know how he was doing because she hadn't spoken to him in a very long time. I told her that it wasn't a good idea for her to lie to me because I knew that wasn't the case. She insisted that she hadn't spoken to him in at least 2 years. She admitted that he had reached out back then, and they spoke very briefly, but the conversation didn't go anywhere. The lie irritated me because not only were they still very actively speaking to one another, but she was the one who had initiated it, not him. That was the point at which I calmly explained to her how syncing with her iPhone and her iPad worked. I told her that I had been able to see the entirety of her conversation with Desmond, and even without addressing the actual content of their conversation, she had lied to my face a few seconds ago. She started to fidget and act restless, because I had caught her in a tight corner and she didn't know what to do. I let her know that I was going to address the content of the conversation because that was the most important part, and it was the reason why our marriage was going to end. Her eyes widened when I said that. I told her that she had been the one to start flirting with him. She was the one who had gotten the ball rolling up until the point when they had slept together on multiple occasions. From the first message she had sent, she wanted to sleep with him, and she eventually got what she wanted, despite the fact that she had a husband. I told her that she needed to be ashamed of herself. She was looking at me like a clueless fool. She didn't have any idea what she was meant to say in that moment because I had trapped her in her own lie. She had done something that was bad enough that a sorry wasn't going to suffice. She was also too smart to use those stupid excuses on me like, "It's not what it looks like," or something like that. I made sure to let her know that our daughter was going to grow up in a broken home, the same way Corinne had. When we had dated, one thing she had told me was that she wished that her parents had lived in the same home until she was old enough to understand divorce, but they had split when she was 10, and it really hurt her badly, having to jet between 2 different houses. She said that she wished she had a happy family growing up, and now she was the one denying our daughter that chance. The fact that my daughter was going to have to suffer in this was probably the part that hurt me the most. I asked her if she had anything to say, but she was just staring at me, with tears down her cheeks. She looked really sad, but I didn't care. I told her that it was all her fault and there was no one she was meant to blame but herself. She ruined everything for us. I really laid it on because I wanted her to feel like crap because that's what she deserved. By the time I left, she was full on sobbing. That night, I went up to our bedroom, locked the door, and tried to fall asleep, but it didn't come. In the middle of the night, I started to pack some of my essential things because I knew that I wouldn't be able to stay in that house much longer. It was like the longer I looked around the bedroom and saw her things, the angrier I got. Since my daughter was around, I really didn't want to get to a violent point of anger. In the morning, our usual pre-work activities went the way they usually do, just that we didn't say a word to one another. To be fair, she tried to have a talk with me, but I didn't even look her way. I said hi to my daughter when she was dressing up for school, and I let her know that I was going on a trip, but I was going to come back and see her as soon as I could. When Corinne went to take our daughter to school, she went to work after that. I took all the things that I had packed to work with me. When work was over, I found a decent and affordable accommodation to rest my head in. Corinne got served at work. She called me once and then sent a message letting me know that she had been served. She didn't say anything besides that. However, when she got home and didn't find me, that was when she started to call me a lot more. I didn't answer a single one of the calls. And before you start commenting, don't think I didn't feel some kind of way leaving my daughter at home. But if I'm going to get divorced from Corinne, I'm going to essentially be abandoning her anyway, on an almost weekly basis. What am I meant to do about it? I don't want the situation, and the only way to really avoid it is for me to either not divorce her or continue to live with a woman who I'm starting to hate, and neither of those is a real solution for this scenario. Back to what I was saying. She called me about every 10 minutes for 3 hours, but I didn't answer the phone. I really didn't want anything to do with a woman who felt so comfortable throwing herself at her ex and cheating on me. It's somewhat amusing to me that she wanted Desmond so badly, but she realized how much she needed me in her life when I abandoned her out of the blue. If only I had been enough for her from the very start, I wouldn't have had to put her through so much discomfort. It has been 5 days since I left the house, and some of the messages that she has sent me show how distraught she is getting over the situation. I even started working remotely for this period so that she won't be able to show up at my workplace to ambush me. I don't mind it though. I think some emotional turmoil is exactly what she needs to really understand the situation at hand. She's apologized for what she's done countless times already, begging me to just send a message to let her know that I'm okay and that I haven't done anything to myself. I wish she understood that she's not worth me hurting myself. I know I won't be able to keep this going for long since I really want to see my daughter, but for now, I'll let her bask in the consequences of her actions. Update 2. I'm now very happily divorced from my ex-wife, Corinne. I want to thank everyone for all the comments and support that they provided under my last post. I really mean it when I say that it helped me out immensely. I ghosted Corinne for a total of 2 weeks, and the only reason I finally showed up again was because I couldn't bear to leave my daughter for any longer than that. I just showed up at the door randomly one evening, and as much as Corinne wanted to speak to me and ask me where I'd been, I just walked in and went to see my daughter straight away. Corinne wanted to speak to me badly, but I could see that the attention I wasn't giving her was hurting her. I saw her tearing up while I played with my daughter, and once she went to bed, she tried to start a conversation, but I told her that wasn't what I came here for. She told me that she was lost without me, and she was so stressed out when I wasn't there. She realized that she had made a mistake messing around with Desmond instead of focusing on me, who had loved her for who she was. It was at that point that I brought up that I knew she had cheated on Desmond, and that was why they had broken up. I told her that, with that in mind, there was no way I was going to have anything to do with her ever again, since she had cheated on him and then cheated on me. It was clearly a lifestyle that she enjoyed, and I wanted no part of it. That hurt her a lot, but I made it clear to her that it was just the truth. We eventually got into the process of the actual divorce, and we couldn't agree on things, so we had to go in front of a judge. I had the evidence of her cheating, and I liked that my lawyer pointed out the fact that there had been a dick pic in her conversations with Desmond. Our daughter could have accessed that image because of Corinne's infidelity, and that was a big concern. I don't know how much her cheating swayed things, probably not much, but at the end of the day, she got to keep the house, likely because the mother gets favored in these kinds of things, and she gets child support from me. However, I won't be paying alimony, and I just want to hope that that's a result of the fact that she's a cheating witch. I earn a bit more than her, so I'm going to tell myself that that's the reason for it. Once the divorce was over and we had custody set up, 50-50, no surprise, I went straight into ghosting her again. If it wasn't my week or I didn't have to talk to my daughter for any reason, I had nothing to do with Corinne. It's clear that she still felt attached to me, so she tried to keep our small talk going, because as she said, I was still her best friend. That only made me commit to ghosting her even more. At a point, she told me that she was distraught without me. She said that she had made a mistake and paid the consequences with the divorce, but she wished that I would still be there for her, at least when it came to the conversations we had been used to having with each other for the last 10 years. I told her she lost that right to those conversations when she decided to sleep with Desmond. She could talk with him instead of me, since he meant so much more to her. Being divorced after so long is a very strange change of pace, but I'm just going to hope that I'll be able to get used to it. Thank you to everyone for following me on this whole infidelity journey. I appreciate you all, and hopefully I have no reason to ever post anything here ever again. Watching her try to lie her way out while you were sitting there with the entire chat history synced across devices is actually ridiculousness. She wanted the thrill of Desmond, but the safety of you. But don't they all? Newsflash, Corinne, you can't cheat and still expect emotional support from the person you destroyed. She spent years taking you for granted, and then the moment you disappear, she's begging for scraps of attention. Too little, too late. The part about her calling you her best friend? No, ma'am. Best friends don't send nudes to their exes. Share your ghosted stories with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.